helping students, we're fostering a deep and lasting understanding. So it's not just for the moment, right? It's that I can take this learning and I can take it to the next grade, I can take it to the next class. I can talk about it anytime. So even when I think about the toolkit, I think about that contextualized practice problem, where I, as a student, get to choose the number that I want to put in the blank. So as a teacher, I can look at what Burton is putting in the blank. Is that all she can do? But I'm going to question her now. So, wow, I like the way you saw that using 5. You think you can use the 12 to solve it? To see where she really is. Is she growing? So I really like all the different pieces. I think we did a great job with the resources, putting them together so that we got something, you know, we got our diagnostic, we have learning where students are, what they need to know how to do, what we need to do as teachers to improve our instruction, but we also have some resources to help us with that. So I kind of like where we landed in the grant.
When parents get to see, like, I can bring counters and say, hey, you know, this is what I was asking them to do, just to count out some counters for me. And then, hey, can you count out those counters? That's something to see, to help, because again, it's concrete. And, you know, and then we have to be positive about saying, we just need to know where they are so that we can meet them there and help them get to where they need to be.
I was gonna say one thing we talked about, like what I found just eye-opening giving the assessment was how the diagnostic can improve your craft as a teacher. Seeing all of the strategies that test had, and I'm like, wow, and I thought I knew, hold on. You know, so I think, and she asked a great question, a follow-up question to that was, you know, well, how as a coach do you embed that into what you're doing? Like, does this show up in PLCs? Does this show up with one-on-one coaching? Do you pull a teacher aside and say, what about this strategy? So I thought, you know, it was just really valuable to see just the variety of strategies, because like one of our CSID improvement strategies is CRA. And I was telling her how a lot of times, okay, yeah, they'll pull out manipulatives. They'll have students draw, and then they go A as algorithm rather than abstract, and knowing that that algorithm is not the only abstract piece. And this program really shows a variety of ways to address and hit that abstract, so that students are not just going straight to 12 times 15, where a lot of them struggle with that, but giving them strategies to use. So I just thought that was valuable in terms of the diagnostic.
And I love this because I'm landing in how I think this even made me better. I know there's something that I went back and did as a result of this grant, which is different from what I had done. We'd always talked about the stages and talked about the difference in the diagnostics and what they do, but I realized that I had an assumption that people knew what that meant. And so as I'm listening, aside from the activities, it made me go back and start talking to the adults about what does it mean to be a stage 0, to be a 1, to be a 3, and what is grade appropriate, because it's easy for us to skim over the little chart and say, oh, they need to be able to count to 20, but by the end of the year, and pointing out and attending to the precision of saying, notice it says by the end of the year, but in order to effectively move this student, right, you need to understand what dispositions or behavior the student is exhibiting, and then what types of behaviors they should be exhibiting and where they should end. That's something that I know I ended up doing differently. Was I could say I gave it to you, and I'm huge on saying just because you gave somebody something doesn't mean they know. So now I went back and we actually looked at the form and talked about this is what this means about this student. And that's teaching for the adult. There's nowhere that I went that wasn't teaching for the adult.
So those,
I didn't think about it like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was a lot of questions. You was like, well, the paper don't say this.
Yeah,
What do we
right,
say? You know what I mean?
right,
So-
right. I found some little things. I'm
Right.
like, wait a minute, okay. But that's really important, just the dialogue with students and.
But even
that
outside of
line
the
voice.
testing, the assessment piece, it was shown in the slides we would kind of go over with the kids. That was a big component that even I would be like, is my math brain on today? Like, I see what I'm seeing, but I thought that was a really good piece. Cause it makes you think, okay, yes, I learned that 2 + 2 = 4. I don't need to know nothing else. But it did make me think, okay, what are other ways that I can look at these 4 cups of lemonade and come up with a story, or one had less, one had more. It does kind of change your thought process that you start thinking about as you become older.
We're not taught that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, also we were discussing just making sure we do our due diligence as educators and take that time out to really learn these varying ways of reaching a solution, because we want to teach what seemed easy to us, which was for many of us the algorithm, but like many of us often forget because of nostalgia, we struggled through that, and many of us had trauma through that, and that's why many of us are like, I'm not a math person. So to really step away from that and out of that box of what we learned has to be right because it's easy for me now, and really understanding how the brain works and that they're all different.
Is the Numeracy project in action?
And one of the things they said over here, Michelle, if we go back to talk about the frequent assessments, even in first grade, being able to count forward and backwards to 120 starting at any number. And we were just saying that don't get them to sing it, get them to say it. And you realize that the kids that cannot identify, recognize that number because they're constantly saying it, And so that's what they were saying, that they realized my kids can't count. This is the standard they need to master, but they can't count starting at any number. Like, hey, I need to be intentional about pulling that group to the table to say, hey, we need to work on you being able to count and all of that. And Ms. Holt said, we started that back in August, but I realized I need to hit that standard throughout the year.
And that's funny, cause we picked a white counter there and we were talking about the fact that, it's absolute. What do they know? What do they not know? And then we were talking about how powerful that is in terms of not being general in saying things like, oh, they can't count. Well, no. What can't they count, right? Can they count to 10? Can they pick up from any given number?